Good morning, everybody. It is officially March. Welcome to March 1st, and this is the morning drive where I drive to work. And while I do, I answer comments from the day before. If I run out of comments, well, then I just start rambling about stuff. And from yesterday's video, there's one comment that I read and then didn't answer because I actually thought I would go into a little bit more of a rant than I thought I would. So let me reread it and then go into that predicted rant. It was from... I'm knocking everything over here. Oh, I can't miss this opportunity here. It's wide open. Okay. It was from Evan Bertucci. Hey Quirk, I was wondering, what's your take on purchasing recast models? Many people share your frustration with Games Workshop Forge World model costs when it comes to collecting and expanding your armies. I know many Wargaming's view. I was just wondering if you share this view. So the reason why new phone case is kind of weighing down my phone here. Okay. I know the mini wargaming view, and I agree with it to a certain point. The whole thing where it's like you can't build an entire army from recast because it's almost like piracy is kind of lame. The thing that I'm okay with when it comes to recast is when you have to get certain bits, like for example, say you want to get the Reaper autocannons for your Ultramarine Terminators. They're incredibly difficult to find, and the only way that you can actually get something that's close to it that could actually pass for a autocannon would be the twin-linked autocannon that you get from the Terminator upgrade set. Problem is that that's about $60 for one gun. That's incredibly expensive, especially when you consider the fact that you could theoretically get a unit of 10 Terminators, all with those Reaper autocannons, because I think they're 30 points each, and they're really, really good. Well, they're not really, really good, but they're quite good, and somebody who wants to make sure everything is WYSIWYG will probably go out of their way to do it. But they suddenly go from having models that are maybe $30 each to models that are almost $100 a piece. And when you consider that the unit itself is about 800 points, if you get like the full 10-man squad with the main vehicle, all that stuff, it's 800 points. But you don't want to pay almost $1,000 for a 10-man unit. That's ridiculous. That is literally like highway robbery. So my opinion on recast is if you buy the one and then you recast it yourself out of green stuff or whatever you do, as long as you bought the one, that's fine. It's when people go and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to buy like this Forge World Titan. I know the Forge World Titan itself is, however, X amount of money, but there's this company in wherever that makes a recast version of it out of crappier resin for half the price, so I'm going to do that. That is kind of like, okay, well, now you are basically pirating a miniature from another source. So it's a little bit unethical, but at the same time, I think it's unethical on the company's part, like Forge World and Games Workshop, to charge as much as they do and make it so difficult for certain people to make their armies. Like, they make the rules already, and now they're going to make it even more difficult for the people who want to play this game and make sure that they're following all the rules and making sure everything's WYSIWYG, to have to pay even more to make sure they follow the rules that are put in place. So it's just it's weird. It's a little bit lame to me and kind of annoying. So, but whatever. The reason I say that is because I recently purchased a couple things off eBay. I think I said that in a previous video where I was like, I'm really, really excited because I got all this stuff off eBay. I got some really cool stuff off eBay, but now I'm actually worried that they're full-on recasts. So when they get in, if they are actually full-on recasts, I'll still keep them, obviously. I'm not going to be like, oh, you jerk, because I'm getting what I paid for. But there's a good chance you won't see them in mini wargaming videos because I'll probably paint them up, use them as display models, and then never touch them again. So, but it all depends on where they're actually from when I get them, because if you can't, I guess that's another thing too, is that if you can't tell it's a recast, because there's some companies that I've seen people get miniatures from that look absolutely phenomenal. They look the part, they have even the same, like, you could tell that basically the company that recast it bought the original mold, or not the original mold, the original bit with all the flash out and everything, cleaned off all the flash except for the larger parts for like the pouring method, and used that to make their recasts. So it's incredibly difficult to tell, and at that point you just have to kind of go by the actual quality of the resin that you're getting. But now, because resin's getting a little bit cheaper and it's easier to get your hands on the better, higher quality resin, it's just kind of, you have to be able to tell whether or not it's a forge rolled resin or the fine cast, or if it is a third party resin mix, basically. So one of the like common ones that I've been hearing of is that when you try and clean it or sand it down or file it, you get a little bit of a smell of gasoline. So hopefully when I get my miniatures and I start to clean them, they don't smell like gasoline. But that's my little rant on recast models. I think there's a place for them. I don't think your entire army should be recast though, because it goes along the same lines as like pirating music. You can get the one free sample of an album of like the artist, but if you're gonna get the entire album, don't pirate the whole thing. Actually buy the album and support the person who like this person or people who created it. That's all. So that being said, I have illegally downloaded albums of music and I felt bad afterwards, so I actually went to like an HMV or something like that and bought the physical copy. So, but that's my 10 cents on recast models. Anyway, comments that came in from yesterday's video. We have Tabletop Banter here. Thank you for replying as ever. If you had to replace your left hand with a root vegetable, which one would you choose? Well, that's going to pose some questions here. Am I going to be able to, like, is the root vegetable's roots going to have the same articulation that my hand does, or is it just going to be a solid vegetable, like a solid thing? Because if it was a solid thing, I would say I would want like a carrot or something, because it's got like that, it's got a good solid build to it, and I'd be able to actually use it to like push or move stuff around. Whereas if it wasn't, or something like that, or if I do have the full appendage ability to it, I would want like, I don't know, garlic or something. That way it actually has like the maneuverability. I might be able to grasp onto something. But those would be my two options. If it's like a solid appendage that doesn't move, I would go with a carrot, or like something that's a larger root vegetable. That way I have the maneuverability with my arm already. And if it does have the articulation, I would probably go with like I said, garlic, or something that has a little bit more options available to it for being able to grasp. Because right now I kind of like my opposable thumb. So that's all. Weird question though, but good job. I like it. I will ask Steve that and watch him get really confused today. Next up we have CJ Phoenix. Morning. Sounds like a heavy yet fun weekend. It was. And yes, the Eldar list was Wraith and Bike heavy, but my plan helped me put out a 17-12 victory. That's awesome, dude. Did that girl... Sorry, it was together there, I got confused. Did that girl from the restaurant ever call your dad? I don't know, but last Sunday, where we normally go for this diner, last Sunday my dad basically was like, let's go somewhere else. So I'm assuming yes, but I don't know, and I'm not gonna ask. I don't want to pry, because that's just weird. But I'm sure there will be a time when we go back to that diner and I get hit, because I usually do. Marcelo Despot. Good morning, pal. Drinking the whole bottle by yourself? I gave out a little bit of it, but for the most part I drank about 3/4 of it, and the last quarter I drank playing King's Cup. And if you don't know how King's Cup works, that's probably because you're too young to drink, so I'm not gonna get more into that one. Bad Quirk. I can't blame you. Jack Daniels is awesome. Yes, it is. Why does Steve get to play with most of your girl visitors? At least I believe so. Are you trying to set him up? What could be the best type of partner for you and your single co-workers? Thanks for answering and have a nice day. Oh, this is a good question. Okay. I'm gonna put the paper down for this one. So, right now I'm just gonna cover who's single in the office. Myself, Steve, and Lee. Matt and Dave are both married. Rob is actually engaged, or has a wedding date planned, so he's going to be getting married very soon. That's exciting. Justin's been married since I've known him, and Josh has a girlfriend who he's been living with so long, I think they're common law. So, kind of narrows that whole thing down. Oh, and Chris is married. I always forget about Chris. He's got his own little office in the ladies' room. So, Okay, so for Lee's pretty simple to do. I have a feeling he would want a girl who was into heavy metal, could appreciate his artistic side, because he does have that, and has to be into like bands, like just musically inclined, mainly because Lee is I haven't seen him play. Well, actually I have. That's a lie. I saw him on YouTube. Lee is a very talented musician. So he plays drums, he has a bass, he has a guitar, and he is just very, very good with all of it. So not only is he a great painter, he's also a great musician, so he's just kind of covering all his bases when it comes to the art. Next thing I want to know, he's going to be learning interpretive dance. So, Steve's a little bit more complicated. I feel like Steve would need somebody who could give him his space and like wouldn't get upset if he had to be at work for a long time, would be totally understanding if he wanted to go out with his friends, all that stuff, but also needed someone who could nurture him, I guess would be the best term. Somebody who would, if Steve said he'd be coming home at the right time, not the right time, but at a certain time, she would be excited and make like dinner for him and be ready for him when he gets home. He would need a housewife. That's pretty much what Steve would love. Would be, I'm assuming, would be a housewife, and just somebody who would actually be inclined to play tabletop games with him. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got there. And no, he's not taking all the female guests. He actually manages to get all those on his own because he's a baller. And for myself, I don't really have a particular type. I just try and see if basically if personalities match, then I pursue it. That's basically it. Right. But thank you, Marcelo. That was an interesting question, and I'm really hoping that Steve and Lee don't watch this episode now. Brad Davidson. His royal quirkiness. Okay. First, from my comment last week, sus is a quite literally the beginning of the word, suspicious. Aussie slang 101. Question for the day, have you not heard about the word? The word? There you go, I set that one up for you. Axis 762, Quirk, just tell people you're an actor. I tried that once, and the first thing that came out was, would I have seen you in anything? No, I don't think you would have. So it kind of falls into the same thing of I make videos online. They kind of have their instant assumption, and if you say you're an actor, but obviously not someone they've seen, like would instantly recognize from a movie, then they're like, what would I have seen you in, like some B movie or something? So kind of falls under that same thing where it still ends up becoming I have to answer more questions. That's all. Alright, Jacob Arthur. Hey Quirk, hope all is well. Again, 2 questions. Have you ever done/wanted to display before? And if so, what was the display of? I did want to at one point, and I started working on it, and I tried to actually hot sand something for the first time on my own, and I totally whiffed on it. The thing I was trying to do was I was actually trying to resculpt a Dread Knight. So I was trying to get the Dread Knight to look like it was kneeling down, like going to be basically trying to pick up a Grey Knight banner. And when I had him in the hot salt, holy cow, I ended up overcooking him, and it melted the knee. Ended up looking like he basically took a ton of melted damage to the rest of his body. So it was a neat trick for that, but it ended up just completely ruining the model. I couldn't get any of it to do what I needed it to, and yeah, it was just all kinds of not good, but whatever. Second, what would you advise getting first for my Salamander's army? Centurion, Assault, or Land Raider Redeemer? Cheers and have a good one. That's a good question. Centurion Assault's really, really good, but the thing is, unless you have a transport for it, they're pretty much going to be getting where they need to go by turn like 4 or 5, so it's kind of not the best. Whereas if you get the Land Raider, that's a good brick of something that's just going to be an absolute pain for somebody to get rid of unless they have some like instant answer for heavy armor. And when you have the Redeemer, you can actually benefit from some of the Salamander stuff with the Flamers. So I would personally say get the Redeemer first. It also gives you a lot more flat surface to play around with your paint scheme and actually add some neat Salamanders, logo, scales, things like that. So it's more fun for if you want to do the painting stuff, you want to do the playing stuff. It's actually got, in my opinion, I think it has more uses as your transport or just as your like heavy artillery, mobile heavy artillery, than the Centurion Assault Squad would. I still think Centurion Assault's really good, just I don't like they don't have an invuln save. So, and they're not gonna get, they're slow and purposeful, so they're not gonna get across the board anytime soon. Cody Asher, Quirk, do you like role-playing games like D&D, Dark Heresy, Dark Watch, etc., etc.? Have you ever considered maybe doing videos related to that? I know Steve mentioned always wanting to try them in the sit and talk. I do like them. I've only ever got to play D&D once, and it was just a short sitting. Really enjoyed it, but at the same time, I can't think of a way to film it aside from a static cam. And I don't know, I find static cam to be a little bit boring. I'd like to be able to move it around, show you guys the board. There goes my Gatorade flying all over the place and found under my foot. Please don't land under my clutch, because then I'm in trouble. Hang on, guys, I gotta grab that. Come here, you. Delicious, delicious Gatorade. As for anything else, with Matt doing his Deathwatch campaign, it's actually feeling more like a role-playing game than actually a tabletop game. So I'm actually kind of, this is gonna sound bad, but I'm actually waiting for him to finish this up to see how it turns out. And if it actually has, it's already gotten a really positive review, but if it actually turns out, like, once he's got the rules down and everything like that, I might try and continue on with my group, or I'll even try and formulate a new one and just kind of expand on that type of RPG type element for the show. But again, still trying to figure out what I want to cover, because I don't want it to be a strictly 40k show, which it mostly is for the most part. But I do also want to get my army done before I start showing any 40k videos. So it might take a little bit because I'm still working on my Ultramarines. So there is that. And we're stopped. So next question. Michael Sampson, any chance you would ever visit the best province in Canada, Nova Scotia? Yeah, I said it like that. I would like to. I think Nova Scotia, from what I've seen in the commercials, it looks like a beautiful place. I would actually like to go and visit it just to kind of hear the accent, because I know Canada almost has the same thing like how Europe does, where every little area has a different accent. You can tell when someone's from Newfoundland, you can tell when someone's from Nova Scotia, you can tell when someone's from Edmonton, Alberta. BC and Ontario are pretty close, but the thing is you actually get a little hint of a Australian accent when you talk to people from BC, because a lot of people from Australia actually go to BC for work because they're like right beside each other. I think it's only like a 3-hour flight or something like that. So, ugh. Anyway, and now I'm officially at work, so I will read one more comment, even though I'm a little late. Sorry guys, at work. Last question I have here is from Sam Farrell. Just finished watching your last rant video. Yes, I was a few days behind. Thank you for the gut laugh. So you don't like the wet nurse model or critiquing of your painting prowess? So just how many times have you kicked Chris in the dick? Just twice. That was actually a fairly quick one. And I got... Whoa, okay. Lane Stadquist. Sorry, I did it again. Damn rambling comments. Please don't crash when you read that last comment. Also, any series of books you recommend that you have read or are currently reading? Right now I'm just reading through the Horus Heresy novels again. I want to kind of get re-caught up on it. If there's anything that you actually want to read for like a really good story, it's the Legion book. It's about the Alpha Legion, so it's kind of good. And then last one we have here is again from Lane. I really like the idea of an overview of the War Machine and Horus armies. I myself have trolls, and my fiance has a ton of Legion of Everblight. I know very little about the War Machine factions, and I've played very little and found the learning curve pretty steep to learning War Horde's tactic. Could you maybe do a small set of Tactica videos either on this channel or perhaps on Mini Wargaming site? I'd really like to see something like that, perhaps a short overview of each faction, how they can be used, their powers in sync, when you should use them. Biggest problem I have is no clue about deployment and movement. Should I set up in front of the sides? How do I keep my caster protected properly? Is there any chance of setting something up like this, perhaps with you and Josh? Someone else included too, almost like a reroll discussion and examples of the model placement on the table. That is a really good idea, and I will add that to my list of things I'm doing for a War Machine right now, because I am still working on that campaign. But that's it, guys. That is all the comments that I have for today. As always, if you have any questions or comments for me, leave them in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Otherwise, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and happy wargaming.